Today we're talking about solving compound inequalities. Compound inequalities are inequalities that have two conditions that have to be met. So if we look up here, this compound inequality would be written as 6 is less than or equal to x plus 5, which is less than or equal to 11. And what we have to think about is we have to think about this as if there's kind of three sides to the inequality, and we have to, when we solve it, we have to do the same thing to all three sides. So let's look here. All we're going to do is we would do the same thing as we would do to any equation or inequality. We would subtract 5 from all the sides, and then we're left with just 6 is greater than or equal to x, which is greater than or equal to 1. So now I've got my number line all set up, and what I have to do is I have to figure out the way that this should be written out. And so, just like before, I'm going to have a filled in circle here because of that less than or equal to. And then I'm going to have filled in circle here because the greater than or equal to there. And then I just have to see, well, in the middle, is it a solution? Well, is 3 greater than 1 and less than 6? Yes, it is. So it's actually goes like this. That's the solution to the inequalities, the compound inequality there. Anything in that range from 1 to 6. So in this compound inequality, there's two conditions, but they're written separately. And it has this important word or there. And we're going to go over why that is in just a minute. So if we look here, we're going to go ahead and solve these separately. So just walking you through here, for this, the left-hand side here, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Then I'm going to divide by 2, and then I'm left with r is less than or equal to 2. On the right-hand side here, I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides, and then I'm left with negative r is less than or equal to negative 7. I can't use negative r, so I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 1. And when I do that, don't forget I need to switch the direction of the inequality symbol, and now I'm left with r is greater than or equal to 7. So let's now graph it. So once again, r is less than or equal to 2, so it's going to be a filled in circle there. And r is greater than or equal to 7, so it's going to be a filled in circle there. R is less than or equal to 2, that means it's going to be going this direction. R is greater than or equal to 7, that means it's going to go this direction. So if you notice, there's a gap in the middle that doesn't meet either of the two conditions. So if I plug in 4 into the left-hand side, I get something that's not true. If I plug in 4 into the right-hand side, I get something that's not true, and that's why there's that gap in the middle. But the two conditions are met by these two separate lines. So in this problem here, we're trying to translate something that's written into an actual compound inequality. And let's read it through a couple of times. It says 5 more than x is less than 8, or 3 less than x is greater than 5. Okay, this is the really important part here that says or. We need to pay really close attention to that, because this is one of those ones that is two separate conditions and it's not something written together. So 5 more than x, so that means 5 more than x, so x plus 5, is less than 8. Or 3 less than x, so that would be 3 less, so x minus 3, is greater than 5. So now let's solve this. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides on this side here. Remember, this is an or statement here. So when I do that, x is going to be less than 3. When I do it over on this left-hand side, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. If x is greater than 8. So now we've got to graph it, so let's do that. X is less than 3, so that's a non-filled in circle. x is greater than 8. That's a non-filled-in circle. So if x is less than 3, it's going to go this way. If x is greater than 8, it's going to go this way. Which makes sense because it has that or part there. If it's an or, then it's going to have a gap in the middle. If it's an and statement, if it meets both the conditions and it's an and statement, then it's going to have that part in the middle without the gap.